There is hardly a day that goes by without Russian invaders providing the world with new evidence of their cruelty and brutality. These are photos from Odessa, where drones destroyed apartment buildings in the latest attack. One person was killed and several were injured. On NATO's eastern flank, no one needs to be convinced that Russia is a serious threat to peace in Europe.
While Russia is stuck in Ukraine, that possibility of direct military attack is not very high, but it may change very, very quickly.
Hence the idea is to increase defense spending to 5% at Tuesday's NATO summit in The Hague. I can announce today that the Norwegian government will announce at the NATO summit that Norway will commit to spending 5% of its GDP on defense and security. However, the further away from the Ukrainian front line, the less support there is for new defense spending. The Spanish army looks combative in these photos, but the government in Madrid wants to allocate only 2% of gross domestic product to it, instead of 5%. A letter on this matter was sent to the NATO Secretary General by the Prime Minister of the Socialist government, Pedro Sanchez. Every government has the sovereign right to decide whether it wants to make such sacrifices. We, as a sovereign ally, decide that we do not. We choose to strike a balance between the need to increase defense spending and the need to address other social, economic, and environmental challenges facing both the world and our citizens. However, this does not convince the U.S. president. Donald Trump has been pressuring European countries for almost a decade to take greater responsibility for their own security.
Well, NATO's going to have to deal with Spain. Spain's been a very low payer. They were always a very low payer. They were either good negotiators or they weren't doing the right thing. I mean, I think Spain has to pay what everybody else has to pay.
So far, out of 32 NATO members, only 8 countries do not meet the current requirement of 2% of defense spending. Spain spends the least on this, less than 1.3%.
The elections might be in few months, so the government would be more unwilling to approve this kind of defense spending in order to avoid voters' punishment.
Defense spending, but also the war in Ukraine and the conflict in the Middle East are set to dominate the two-day NATO summit. Leaders from Poland, the United States, France, and the United Kingdom, among others, have confirmed their attendance. The event will be accompanied by extraordinary security measures.
So the aim is to observe everything what's happening in the area, at sea and in the air, and therefore we are operating here. And in the case of an escalation, we can conduct operations to ensure the safety of the NATO summit.
That is why the Dutch services have launched the largest security operation in their history, codenamed Orange Shield.